Today on episode 20 of the Sean and Bo Show, the very latest on the Adrian Peterson child abuse fiasco and why he might not be lacing up anytime soon.
Plus Brandon Marshall versus ESPN and Rihanna versus CBS.
Plus, we take a look at the latest NFL power rankings, who's hot, who's not, and what to watch for in week 3 of the NFL. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Yes, we made it to episode 20. Welcome, everybody. It's the Sean and Bo Show. Sean O'Donnell, along with my co-host, Bo Greer. Bo, if I sound a little funny today, it's not because I fell and bumped my head, despite the rumors. I had my wisdom teeth out. So, I'm a team player. I'm here, man.
Yeah, that's
I'm
the way
here
to
play.
tough through it. You're doing way better than your boy Jamal Charles. At least you're out here right now. Way to
It's not his fault. Everyone on the Chiefs is dropping like flies. By the way, what's going on in that strength and conditioning room? Are they skipping leg day? What the hell is happening?
I've often worried about this, and you take Andy Reid away from the Philly cheesesteak sandwiches and you plant him right there next to the best barbecue in the world. I imagine that all of the team dinners around KC have changed. You can blame it on that.
Well, that's fine. Hey, burnt ends, some nice brisket. That's pure protein, bro. That's good for an athlete.
Yeah, that is true. But Jamal Charles, he looks like a skinny guy. Might not be able to handle the extra potatoes.
We're going to be talking about the Week 2 games coming up, but of course, it's been called the darkest couple of weeks in NFL history. Things just are not going well for the image of the National Football League, and in particular, Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I heard someone, the guy who does 360, he mentioned this, and I know this being a conspiracy nut. If you listen to the show, I like to dabble in the conspiracies every now and again. And I still think the worst mistake ever made was when they played the Sunday after JFK was assassinated. I really do think that even today, if a president was assassinated or passed away in office, we would cancel whatever sporting events we had planned for the weekend as a nation. I don't think what's going on right now even measures up. And as we dive into this show, you're going to hear me mention, there's a ton of good things that go on day in and day out in the NFL, around NFL cities, and NFL organizations. But they're not going to highlight that. You know why? Because we love negativity. We love fear-mongering. We love it in the media. If you're not bashing people, you'll have low ratings. Last time I checked, none of the 24-hour news cycles bring us warm, heartfelt stories from around the country about how people help their community and don't go into malls and shoot people.
People don't care.
They don't care.
No, they don't.
They don't care. This too, a friend mentioned this to me, Sean. He says, I don't want to sound like a scumbag here, but this week did nothing but have some of the worst fantasy football scores you've ever seen. If you're in a league out there, you know what I'm talking about. It wasn't just the injuries. It was the fact that there was not a news cycle that talked about injuries, talked about matchups. There were no highlights during the week. I tried to get whatever I could out of cities, but everything that was on an NFL team page, Sean.
Okay. 2 things, bro.
Yeah.
One, this is what I've referred to in the past as a media vacuum.
Okay.
Whenever
Explain
there's a big story like a Ray Lewis or an Adrian Peterson story, all the reporters are going to focus their coverage, their time, their work on that big story, on furthering it, on the developing leads and that sort of stuff. So other things that might get reported in a normal week suddenly are there's a vacuum. It's just the big story.
See, I've never worked in the media. I don't know this.
And more importantly, Bo, and this is to you, and this is to everyone commenting on every game thread and article about any athlete and any injury. No one cares about your fantasy football
Yes,
team.
they do.
No.
Yes,
You
they do.
You care about your fantasy football team. I don't give a rat's ass about what injuries are affecting whose fantasy. I just don't care.
But wouldn't you like to know about your team?
Well, of course.
Not to sound like Bill Cosby here, but
I know
want
why
to
you want to know
about my team.
I know why you want to know. And I know why a lot of people want to know. It's not because they care about the players. It's because they got $5 in some fantasy football website. And I got to tell you, I just don't care about your fantasy football team.
I do. I cannot stand for something that I wait for, I live for. If you live life, if you have family, if you have kids, if you have a job that puts you in the middle of these things that happen daily, what Adrian Peterson did, what Ray Rice did, yes, they are mistakes. They were wrong, but they happen every day in our community. And having worked social services, if it wasn't for the court-sponsored advocates that you get, or which usually turn out to be judges' wives, lawyers' wives, there's not a lot of people that show up at a social services office to donate time, Sean. You know why? Because it's not the popular thing to do. What's the popular charity thing to do around the holidays and all year long? What's the number one thing everybody goes to? A homeless shelter, which is great.
Food bank, homeless shelter.
Food bank. Yeah. Let's get cans. Okay, great. There's nothing wrong with that. But the least popular thing to do is I'm going to go spend time with little Timmy and his father and help educate them on correct ways on how to diffuse conflict in their family. Because Timmy's dad and his dad's dad, they used to throw things through windows when they got angry. And that's what really needs to be discussed. And we're not going to get to that on TMZ. We're not going to get to that through Adam Scheffner and ESPN. No, there are people that go to college for this. There are people in local organizations that are trained to work with these things. And we're not going to get to that level. So let me have my football. Let me know what to pick on the over-under and stop taking away the channels that drive me to really go out there in the community and give my time and to donate time at high schools and work with these families. Because if you really care about that stuff, don't take time out to type on Twitter while you're sitting on the toilet. You get up off your butt and go give a week a month, or a day a month, a weekend a month to some place that deals with battered women and see it firsthand. That's what'll fix the problem. And I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, step down, Bob. Now we're going to get to our takes on the Adrian Peterson story. We'll talk about corporal punishment kind of at large in a minute. But let's right now bring us up to speed on the latest developments with the Adrian Peterson story as it moves forward. Most people have heard by now that there's a second alleged case of it's not child abuse. It's like, 2 levels down from that, the same charge as the first case that's currently being investigated. I would just like to say that if somebody admits that they deliver whoopings to their kids, they're not singling out one kid. They're doing it to all their sons, So,
Yes.
Of course, there's more than one scenario. I think the original story with Adrian Peterson, the very first thing that came out with the quotes from the child, even indicated that he called, Adrian Peterson had what he called a whooping room. Yeah. Now, if you have a house and you have a room in that house devoted to whooping your kids, it's not a one-time thing.
No.
Okay, this didn't just happen once. This is what the man does.
It's like when doctors and people in medicine have a library because they're educated. Yeah. This is what they do. This man has a whooping room.
This is the other end of that. Sure. Okay, so Radisson, which is the big local sponsor of the Minnesota Vikings, and whenever you see a Minnesota Viking press conference, they're prominently displayed on the advertising backdrop there. They have suspended their corporate sponsorship of the team. So that's sort of the first ball to drop.
I was just glad to know they're still in business. That was the first time I knew Radisson was even a hotel.
They're not that bad, man. They're no Hojo.
Yeah.
So the next thing, Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton issued a statement saying that, quote, whipping a child to the extent of visible wounds should not be tolerated in our state. He went on to call Adrian Peterson's actions, if they're true, an embarrassment to the state of Minnesota. Then, very silently, this one hasn't gotten as much traction as some of the other stories. Nike has pulled Adrian Peterson jerseys off the shelves in the Twin City area market. You can still buy them online at Nike.com, but if you're trying to get an Adrian Peterson jersey in Minnesota, it's going to be tough to find. Then, this is probably the most damning thing, just based on how huge of a sponsor Anheuser-Busch is to the NFL. They issued the following statement. We are disappointed and increasingly concerned by the recent incidents that have overshadowed this NFL season. We are not yet satisfied with the league's handling of behaviors that so clearly go against our own company culture and moral code. We have shared our concerns and expectations with the league, Bo. Okay? Now, that's bad news. And if you ask me, despite the merits of what Adrian Peterson did, if it was child abuse or not, whether it was criminal or not, just based on those four things, I can already tell you he's going to get suspended.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a foregone conclusion at this point. You know, they said they were going to let him practice and play, and he might even play this Sunday, but there's no way. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah, in the political realm, this is weathering the storm. You need to do these things when you're talking about billions of dollars, multi-million dollar TV contracts. Yes, you have to weather the storm. This is not, even if this was a state run, let's just say, for example, some guy, he owns $1 billion company. His child goes into a local school. He has bruises. They're visible. A case is open. There's an investigation. Oh, boy, did you see the name on this case? I'm going to take this to my supervisor because we've been told in certain situations we need to let them know. Oh, my gosh, I need to call my supervisor. Next thing you know, your case is ripped out of your office and it goes straight to the governor's desk. Because even in regular life, there are people, ladies and gentlemen, that are just not like you and I.
Money and power.
Money and power, baby. It can buy you something. And you better believe there are CEOs that beat their kids just like there's NFL players that have went overboard. Yes, things need to happen. They need to weather the storm. But we also, like I just was on my soapbox, we cannot get we can't think that this is where it ends. I think so many people over, when you see these discussions, you know, you got Chris Carter and the Charles Barkleys of the world, everybody's Ray Lewis, everybody's beating their chest. I don't beat my kids. My grandma beat me. I'm better than you. Okay, great. What are we going to do to address the divide in our country? We got one group of people that think it's perfectly normal to pick a stick off a tree and beat a kid till it bleeds.
No, this is the thing that is crazy to me. Not just that it's okay to do, but that it's actually beneficial to do.
Yeah, that's it. That's the problem.
And that's a huge difference between just, it's a necessary evil and thinking that this is what it's going to take to mold a good, upright citizen.
Now, if you don't know yet, I am African American, to our loyal listeners out there. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. This is what conversations go on with people of my race. And when I called my grandparents and I'm talking to them about it, talking to my mom and dad about it, this is how. So it's one thing for Adrian Peterson to go overboard. It's one thing for Ray Rice to break the law, punch a woman in the face. It's wrong. And keep in mind, my grandfather was a police chief. Family does law enforcement. We get angry not at what went on with these players and the fact that they're African American. What we get angry on is the fact that the governor of Minnesota will comment on this subject when I could probably get on one of the various political web pages right now and see 35 liberal issues that have to deal with low-income housing, low-income schools, low-income areas, and this SOB won't speak one word about helping those people because you know what? I guarantee 85% of them are African American. Yet when a black person in power makes a mistake, people can all of a sudden hold a press conference on courthouse steps and release statements. Anheuser-Busch. Let me pull this up. This is one thing I had to go to.
Arian Foster?
No, not even Arian Foster. Right here, you read Anheuser-Busch's statement. Mm-hmm. I wanted to hit on this while it was fresh. 2011 to 2012, we went from 9,000 related traffic deaths related to alcohol to over 10,000, approaching 11. That's the biggest jump we've seen since in 30 years, right? But NFL players get out of line, and Anheuser-Busch convenes together. You know, they had some big people in a room to discuss how we address this issue. Yet every case, when my brother's a law enforcement officer, if you watch TV and you're just a human being with a pulse, you know when you see these situations, what is always the cause of these domestic violence situations? Too much alcohol.
Well, I think it's a stretch to blame Anheuser-Busch for that. I mean,
Well, it's not blaming.
I'll tell you what,
It's not blaming.
I consumed plenty of Anheuser-Busch products the other night. I didn't drive drunk. I took a car service,
Yeah.
and I sure as hell didn't beat anybody up.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's about individual responsibility to an extent.
Yeah.
But you do make a good point that alcohol is oftentimes synonymous with domestic violence at large. And that was sort of the point that Albuquerque's own Arian Foster was making on Twitter.
yeah.
And I got to say, this is by far the funniest thing that I read all damn week. After we already read the statement that Anheuser-Busch put out. After that, Arian Foster tweeted out, LOL, okay, alcohol company. He went on to say, selling poison on that high horse. Next tweet, domestic violence and alcohol damn near synonymous. Hashtag stay sucka free. And then he retweeted somebody else saying, finally, a big-time company taking a public stand against, and you rip them, huh? And Arian Foster asked, you need a company to tell you that domestic violence is wrong?
Yeah.
Next tweet, everybody is just riding the media wave. There has been tons of domestic violence cases throughout the years. Where was all this media support then? It is political.
Yes. And time again, like I said, if you're of a certain group of people, when we're together, I'm just going to let you know a secret. We talk about it. We say it. We're like, man, like you just see this story just snowballing and it's getting bigger and it's getting bigger. And you're just wondering to yourself, like, this is what we did over the weekend, me and my friends. We pulled up stories. The last one was a police officer in Georgia, white police officer, beat a black woman on the side of the road, beat her, punched her in the face multiple times. She needed surgery. You don't know what he's doing right now? He's still
On vacation?
He's still a police officer. Nobody even knows about that story. I would think as a country, someone that has the license to be judge, jury, and executioner is more of a national threat than a couple guys that we watch leisurely while we stuff our faces with sausage and the same product that I'm bashing right now, beer. It just appalls me. And, you know, if you heard Charles Barkley, we listened to it earlier. He made a lot of good points. It's, you know, we get on Twitter, we get on social media. Everybody's perfect. Nobody makes mistakes. And it's just, it's sad. It really is sad. And that's, I hate talking about it.
Yeah, part of that I agree with, but I don't think it's too white knightish or you know, living in a glass house to say that you shouldn't beat a 4-year-old to the point where they have open cuts on their legs.
No.
You know, that's the part of this that really bugs me. We're talking about a 4-year-old. I mean, I have very, very few memories of when I was 4 years old, and I can guarantee I couldn't really tell the difference between right and wrong at 4 years old. You might be able to teach a 4-year-old obedience to an extent, but that's a 4-year-old, man.
Yeah.
You know, that's a kid fresh out of diapers, and you're already causing that kind of bodily harm. Really? Mm-hmm. That's beneficial to the upbringing of a kid, really?
No, it's too much. But at the same time, like nothing gets solved on TV. Like, when do they ever? National debates never solve the problem. It has to be, I don't know, and I don't even know how you attack it. That's the worst thing about it, because you're dealing with something that happened in Texas from a guy who plays for the Minnesota Vikings, and then you're tugging at two entirely different regions when you talk about how people feel about corporal punishment. So when you play all that into the middle of it, you realize that as a country, we're very separate. You and I have both had different upbringings, even though we're both from similar regions. But at the same time, yes, we were both spanked. I seen grandparents who maybe went overboard, and my mother protected us from that because her family, with her father being a law enforcement officer, he never did anything like that. So he protected us from the other side. Without my mother, I would have been more exposed to that. And I often wonder, would I treat my kids like that because I would think it was normal? Because a lot of times whenever you're in those situations, you hear people like that talk, they say, I'm just doing what my dad did. And how come, why is it okay? Why is it okay on one end to just be like, oh man, Archie Manning was a hell of a quarterback. I'm not surprised with Peyton and Eli. Oh my gosh, Bill Simmons or not Bill Simmons, just some random name. Bill used to beat the hell out of his sons when they messed up. Now both of his boys are child abusers. I'm not surprised about that. That's the way it goes. Sandusky was a good idea. You know, his dad ran a boys' home. I have that eerie feeling. I tell people the state of Pennsylvania should have been opening a book on Jerry Sandusky's father who ran a boy home, because that's another learned behavior.
Well, that's what I think, the positive moving forward is that you can break that cycle.
Yes, you can.
You don't have to raise your kids exactly how you were raised. So, public national debates might not ever solve any problems, but I think talking about that issue and maybe making people think about it a little bit more and realize that your parents indoctrinate a lot of things into you. Religion, yes, politics, all those things. Vast majority of the time, you have the same political affiliation when you're an adult that your parents had when you were young. So indoctrination is a real thing that happens. However, you don't just have to blindly repeat everything that your parents ever taught you, did to you, or you saw happen. We have free will.
I had this massive light bulb go off in my head, a couple of days ago. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, golly, like yes, we need something to be done. We're having this national debate. We have sports that, on one hand, I as an African American can't be happy that sports ushered in it broke down the walls, Sean. Sports is one of the first arenas, along with the military, where people of all races and colors working together, and it broke down a lot of walls. So we can't allow that to just stop when it comes to domestic violence, child abuse, drug addiction. We need to allow sports to do more for us. And I said, who in the heck could do something like this? Where in the heck are there a lot of psychologists, people with educations, and they don't really have a lot to do? And who has a lot of money to help this happen? Oh my gosh, the NFL and that organization you call the NCAA that you work with your puppet strings. Mm-hmm. Education could start from there. That is a great place, because you got a lot of kids that come from these various backgrounds, and you can take a young man that's from East Texas and say, this maybe was how you were raised, and this is how your father dealt with problems. This is a new way. Because they teach us a whole lot of other things in college and that we take on in life, whether it's business, politics, work ethic. So why can't it be things that deal with, how to raise a family? And that's the only thought I have on that, and how we can come to some sort of agreement on how people can put this to rest, move forward, and feel like we're doing something to fix it in the future.
And this might be really damn cynical, but I'll say it anyway. If this isn't Adrian Peterson, if this is a player of lesser stature in the NFL, that wasn't such a role model in the NFL, that wasn't just so damn good, he's already suspended last week.
I agree. Totally.
The only reason why this,
there.
The only reason why this, story is still rolling on at this point is because Adrian Peterson is really, really good, and that's just, I think, a cold reality of talent in the NFL and what you can get away with if you are really good. But like I said earlier, I think at this point, to me, seeing these advertisers flex their dollar muscles a little bit, I'm seeing the writing on the wall. I think Adrian Peterson's probably getting suspended in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, and as I sit here drinking this Miller Lite, I laugh because I guarantee there's some boys over there at that company that are like, yeah, go ahead, Anheuser-Busch, drop them. We'll be happy to throw our banners up on Sunday and have songs about us related to the greatest sport in the world. I hate the flexing of the muscle by corporations, because they won't flex their muscle when something real happens. If we all needed health care and they needed to flex their muscle, they'll all shut up and disappear until the election's over.
From one happy story to the next, Ray Rice, an update to that. The NFLPA has now appealed the indefinite suspension of Ray Rice by Roger Goodell, citing two main factors. One, the fact that he was punished twice for the same offense.
Yeah.
They gave him the 2-week suspension rather. Then the video came out, the public outrage. Roger Goodell obviously had to punish him more. Same offense, 2 punishments. That's a little squirrely. Number 2, they're challenging the fact that the NFL can indefinitely suspend a player. And, I think what Ray Rice did was despicable, but I also think that this is a forgiving country. I think that Ray Rice, he probably should get another chance to play football. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. But whether I would hire him if I was
he's too
GM,
old.
Yeah, he's probably too old. But I mean, look, what always happens in these situations is you lay low for a while. You do your public mea culpa.
Yeah.
You donate a bunch of money to whatever cause you infringed upon, and that eventually people are going to give you another shot. If it happened for Michael Vick, it can happen for absolutely anybody.
Yeah.
So right or wrong, I think he's going to get another shot at it. I probably would say the NFL Players Association is gonna win this appeal. I think Ray Rice will probably have to sit out a season or something like that, but I do think he'll get another crack at it, Bo.
Yeah, we all love the second chances. And, as far as the NFL image goes, people forget how powerful being a Hall of Famer is. Ray Rice could creep into that discussion in 15, 20 years. So you don't want his last images in the NFL to just be this case. They're going to try and get some highlight film of him either in another jersey or in the Baltimore Ravens jersey again, so they can talk about the rebuild story. It's going on right now with your team, the Irish, with Colston. I'm watching them rebuild his image right in front of my eyes. It's like every Saturday.
Give him a Heisman.
I'm
baby.
like, no. I was telling my wife, I said, dang, every Saturday I try to watch the Irish. They want to make me cry over that Colston boy. They told me his uncle last time, then his mama, then the boy over in Chicago that took him under his wing.
Everett Golson for Heisman.
No, it's Everett Golson for Congress now. Have you not heard? This thing is growing. He's going to be in the White House by the end of the year. But no, man, it's football is just the game that just envelops so much. And, there's things going on around the world that are very scary. I'm not going to lie. You turn on the news and it's not just a bunch of crazy talk right now. The things that are going on are very real. And in this country, we're afforded the ability to just tune it out and pay attention to football. But every few years, somebody does something, whether it's Ray Lewis, Ray Caruth, we can go down the list. Or we're given the stories where things happen to players in the NFL, like a Sean Taylor. We lose him, or a Derek Thomas with the Kansas City Chiefs. Either way, whenever these things happen, man, we have these discussions. We make our opinions known to our friends, our family. We get on podcasts. We call into radio shows. We go on Twitter and Facebook. We fight. Some people lose friends over this. I've seen these discussions make people hate each other. But when it's all said and done, Sean, notice I didn't say at the end of the day. I skipped that part. We get more football, and it helps us get over it. Whether it's a tragedy, that unspeakable tragedy like 9/11, whether it's a mistake like Ray Lewis, or whether it's something that just makes you
a mistake like Ray Lewis,
or not Ray Lewis.
That's a hell of a mistake.
Ray Rice, and his wife, making the mistakes that they did that led up to that situation, and him ultimately making the ultimate. Just you don't do what he did on any level. And then what you said about Adrian Peterson, you don't beat a 4-year-old until they bleed. We will need football to get us over it. We'll need each other to have these discussions. And one day we'll have to go deep into the memory bank because something else will happen. Somebody else will hit somebody else will get arrested, and we'll move on to that story. You know that, Sean. There'll be something else in 6 more weeks.
Well, speaking of legal investigations, Bo, the district attorney in the Tony Stewart case has now sent the case to a grand jury. So it kind of seemed like that Tony Stewart situation where the unfortunate death of the driver happened. I didn't think that it was going to go anywhere. It very well might, still not. But now a grand jury is going to decide whether or not this gets prosecuted.
That's very interesting to me. I thought that was over too. In reading this great article Popular Mechanics had, where they took what they could get from the investigation, broke it down. you can't really control those cars at those speeds. And one of the few ways to guide the cars is by acceleration. And then you watch numerous videos where people are trying to explain the difficulties of driving those cars at low speeds. I don't know what to think. It is an unfortunate situation, just like everything else. But Sean, this takes me back. What are we ranked now as far as countries go in intellect and smartness and all that great stuff? What are we, 17th in the world or 27th? We're way down there, right? Everybody's beating the United States. And I, knowing that in the back of my head and working in education, you hear teachers complain about all the tests and the standardized testing. They want to know where the kids stand. I say to myself, have we become a bunch of trained idiots? When you and I watched that video in the summer, Sean, we came to the determination that Ray Rice carried a lifeless Janae Rice out of an elevator.
Yep.
We assumed because of a police report, he knocked her out cold, right?
It was pretty apparent, unless there was a ninja in that elevator with him.
But it took the release of the elevator video for our beloved comrades in this country to figure out what happened in there and to become appalled by it.
Seeing is believing.
Just like what Tony Stewart's going through. You can't tell me by watching that video you don't feel that that man was at fault. I guarantee there's more idiots out there trying to come up with a reason why Ray Rice was in the right than that kid approaching a car going 45 miles an hour. This is the stuff that Charles Barkley was talking about. The opinion havers out there are never wrong. They're always right and their lives are perfect.
Thank you for noticing. Coming up on the Sean and Bo Show, it's Brandon Marshall versus ESPN, Rihanna versus CBS, and Colin Kaepernick's very odd penalty. Plus, it's not all negative. We got a positive story for you about Antonio Gates and something very cool the Bengals are doing. Plus, Bo and I take a look at the NFL Power Rankings and tell you what to watch for in Week 3 of the NFL. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Bo and I would like to thank you very much for tuning into the Sean and Bo Show. As you know, it's episode 20. And if you're just tuning in, there's a lot to be caught up on. You can do so online. We're on iTunes. Just search Sean and Bo Show. Also on YouTube, or check us out on Podomatic. You can even download episodes to your phone. SeanandBoShow.podomatic.com. Twitter @Sean and Bo Show. And if you'd like to email us, go ahead and shoot us an email, SeanandBoShow@gmail.com. Back to the show.
Breaking news, Sean and Bo Show loyal listeners. Yes, it's finally happening. The NFL, Sean, has taken a total left turn on this one. We thought that illegal hits was going to make the NFL soft. No, Colin Kaepernick, here's a flag and a penalty for potty mouth. Yes, it happened, ladies and gentlemen.
I have never wished someone was mic'd up for a game more than Colin Kaepernick in this game. You're right, Bo. It's the very first time the NFL has thrown a flag for inappropriate language.
Ooh. I feel like I'm in the 4th grade, man.
Now, I love the banter between Kaepernick and the side judge, Laird Hayes. Kaepernick's alleging, quote, "I didn't say anything. Nothing. He just, wanted to throw a flag at me." To which the ref responded, "He knows what he said."
It's classic. I had a high school football game a couple weeks ago where the ref throws this flag just out of nowhere. And the player who the penalty was on, he's known for having foul language in class and school all the time. So the ref comes over, tells the head coach, what happened? I'm asking, what happened? It's a foul language penalty. I'm like, what? I was shocked and was livid on the sideline of a high school football game. I had no idea that this was a part of the new rules agreement. I know we discussed the N-word being taken out, but...
Well, that's what everybody thought this rule was about.
Yeah, I didn't know this was just for potty mouth in general.
Okay, funny you say that. The exact description of the rule is, quote, "abusive, threatening, or insulting language or gestures to opponents, teammates, officials, or reps of the league." So it could have been an N-bomb, could have been a gay slur, could have just been something really insulting about his mama.
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever going to know.
So this is the kind of stuff that I often point out when I'm, doing the water cooler talk, the age-old tradition of Americans, spending time around the work water cooler, not completing the task we are paid to do. That's what we do. And everybody's these guys, they're paid too much money and they're all prima donnas. No, this is what I remind you. Go into any office. I don't care if it's full of women, full of sailors. It's a bar on a bad side of town.
Office full of sailors? Where are you hanging out, bro?
There is going to be foul language, especially when it's a group of people that are used to each other. Maybe they barbecue, they go to games on weekends, whatever. People that work together for years become comfortable, and they use language that would be looked at as not politically correct.
A little salty.
It's inappropriate. Now you're talking about the workplace of the NFL players. A violent game is being policed for foul language.
Go wash your soap out mouth out with soap right now, young man.
Yeah, what is this, the Christmas story all over again? Goodell, this is where people get on you. This is why everybody wants to go after your head right now, because they wonder, are you helping the game or are you hurting the game? Dan Patrick has been saying this for the past couple of weeks, and I think it's real funny. Let me negotiate those TV deals. I can negotiate those TV deals. I wonder how hard it is. You walk into the room, you're like, who are you? I'm the NFL. Oh, yeah, okay. No, it's not like that. That's what it's like if you're one of the networks that are on Hulu right now and you're trying to pick up sponsorship and make it on the TV. You are out there working for every scrap, every 5-minute bit, every plug you can get. The NFL, everybody's coming to you. Can you be on our TV station? Can you put Thursday Night Football on CBS? Can you put this on here? Because it is the biggest game in the world. So, yeah, I agree with Patrick when he says those things. And when you see things like this, and did you watch the game Sunday night? Did you get sick of the Sunday night game with all the penalties? Oh my gosh, Indianapolis Colts, Philadelphia Eagles. There was a stretch there where my 7-year-old son turns and looks at me and says, Dad, are they going to play football? That was his honest word, Sean.
I got to say, man, I don't think it's because of all these negative stories. I don't think that has anything to do with it, but I've found this year's NFL games to watch a lot less entertaining than previous years. I don't know what it is. If it's the bad refs, if it's too much commercial time, I don't know what's irking me about it, but I just haven't. I've still watched damn near every game I can get my hands on, don't get me wrong, but it just seems different.
You're a real fan. You're like the people that watched Lost on season 1, 2, and 3 and didn't pick it up at the end.
Goddamn show. I wasted so many hours on that.
You tried to hang on even though you knew the
smoke
show.
Monster. What the hell is that?
And that's the way the NFL is. We're the loyal fans. We've watched it in the infancy. We remember when our dads were telling us, oh man, they used to show these games like they were on tape delay or whatever. Or if you lived over here, you didn't see NFL games. And now we're a part of the NFL ticket generation and Red Zone channel. So yeah, we're going to notice production quality. And I think personally what it is to me, it's the fact that a play happens, a big play happens. They get down the field. You're like, oh, wow, that guy executed that. And then you hear Collinsworth or you hear Boomer, any one of the guys that are on TV commentating, and they get that sigh. You know what I'm talking about, Sean? That, here we go. There's a flag.
Flag on the play, it looks like.
Yeah, this one's coming back. Gosh. And then when they do that, you as a fan, you're thinking it's like a doctor that's looking at your chart and he's groaning and you're like, oh, this isn't going to be good. These guys played in the NFL when it was the bomb. Like, we used to watch these guys play in the NFL and they could go fight each other and point at each other, and Boomer could throw footballs at players and be a jackass.
By the way,
we loved it.
Who is that? Who is that former ref that is now like an officiating commentator that they bring in during games? He looks like an African-American Mr. Clean.
Yes. I know the dude was 3 for 3 during a game. We were cracking up. We were betting, or me and my friends watching the game. We were like, he's gotten every one of these right. So we just wrote it out the rest of the day.
Did we talk about that on a previous episode? He actually he took offense to the Redskins name.
Yeah.
and he quietly refused to officiate a Redskins game for like 3 years, and nobody figured it out until he retired.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a true that's how you that's in my opinion, that's how you fight things. It's not about getting publicity for yourself or bringing name, recognition to you. It's about I have a belief, I feel strongly, and I'm not going to do this. And it didn't affect his job. He didn't have to go on Oprah. He wasn't on the Fox News, Fox and Friends telling us about it. And that's why I respect
Mike
that.
Carey.
Mike Carey. Gosh, he was like 4 for 4 one game. And these were tough calls. And he hadn't even really had time to see the replays all the way, even though they send them right away. He had just seen the play live, and they call him in. He's like, oh, yeah, this is what happened. They're going to call this, and they come back and like, bam. Oh, wow. You're good.
We're going to get off the negative stories for a minute, Bo. I know you've been impressed in the play of one Mr. Antonio Gates this year, and you had some theories what it's attributable to, because the guy is kind of getting a little long on the tooth, but he's putting up some big numbers, Bo.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where I know you don't care about it because it's related to fantasy football. That's how I stumbled onto this story.
Sure don't.
I'm sitting there watching Phillip Rivers on my bench. He throws 3 touchdown passes. I lost my fantasy football matchup this weekend because he's on my bench. And I'm like, well, who did he throw him to? Who's out there? I'm like, what? San Diego Chargers beat the Seahawks? So, and I was watching the game off and on. Antonio Gates had a big day, monster day. And I'm reading and I'm looking and I'm like trying to figure out, well, Antonio Gates, I thought he was getting ready to retire. He's doing the Goodwill tour. He had a sister, Pamela Gates. She was 22 years old. I don't really know what the illness is, and that's not the highlight of the story. She became ill 3 years ago, Sean. He discussed with the team and his family members. He's the multimillionaire in the family. He has the ability to take off work. He missed a lot of workouts. He missed a lot of time that, you think it's the time he would have had to put in to be Pro Bowl caliber. And you could see where his production, he caught 8 to 10 TDs a year for basically a decade. And then he fell off, which isn't really falling off, but by his standards, around 6 or 7. And then burst on the scene and already has 3 touchdown passes for this season. And his sister had passed away at the beginning of training camp. And if Philip Old Man Rivers with his 7 kids, he's a family man.
He's a breeder.
Yeah, exactly. Him and Antonio really hit it off during that time. He helped him through that. So now it's a no-brainer to me. And I said to myself, why didn't I hear about this? Oh, that's right. It's a positive story. It's not negative. Antonio Gates was doing something that is expected of a young man who makes it and becomes financially independent to, be a leader, not only for his community, his team, but for his family. And my hat's off to him. He gets my Good Family Man award for the week. It was just good to see him perform. And, let's move on, but there are good players out there.
Another positive story, Bo, and I have to somewhat disagree with your take that nobody likes a positive story, because you can bet your ass ESPN loves a positive story after they get finished with 25 minutes of Adrian Peterson banter. But this is very cool. The Bengals and their goodwill that they've shown towards is he a defensive end?
Defensive tackle, I thought.
Okay. Devon Still.
Yes.
His daughter was diagnosed with cancer. He basically wanted to spend more time with her and be around for treatments, etc. So they agreed to put him on the practice squad in order for him to retain his health insurance for his daughter. And then, just a few days later, they actually activated him onto the roster. So
he was playing last week.
Yeah, the cool part about it is they're still treating it as if he is on the practice squad. Like if he does need to go travel, they'll cut him some slack on that. But they're paying him, they're giving him insurance, and the cool thing with the jerseys, they're donating. I don't know if it's a percentage or all profits of his jersey sales towards the fight that his daughter is involved with, and it's currently setting some jersey sale records for the Bengals.
Well, a part of that story that actually got me into that mood where you put choking back the tears, and my wife's looking at me like, wow, that you really like that one. But the Bengals players were paying the hospital bills when he originally got cut, and they found out through the team source, some team source. And I use that story with my football players, talking to them about the band of brothers, how you're in this unique situation and you're never going to be in it. I miss that. You asked me, Sean, about playing college football. The biggest thing you miss from high school to college, and even I know these NFL guys miss it, you lose 60 to 70 people that you can go to and you can tell them, my grandfather passed away, or you can tell them, I'm not doing good in school. I'm going to flunk out if I don't get this done. And they're going to look you in the eye and they're going to help you. And you try to get the kids to understand that, and, so they don't take things for granted when they got to be at practice early, getting to class on time, those kind of things, getting things done. Because when you lose that band of brothers, to this day, it hurts, and you don't have that. And it was good to see that story, because that's the good side of football. That's what I always tell parents when they say, should my son play football? I'm like, the job interview I just got, I would have never gotten a job interview at Indiana State for a football coaching position if one of my brothers did not put my name in that hat. The only way it happens is because every year I played football, I had a new 20 coming in as freshmen, and there was already, 60 there that were my brothers. And still to this day, we try to keep in touch, and that's my spiel.
Couple of interesting stories. I think we need some sound effects for this one, Bo. Brandon Marshall versus ESPN. Ding, ding, ding.
Yes, we do.
Now, ESPN did an E60 that is airing on Brandon Marshall tonight. And this afternoon before, and this is hours before this is going to air, Brandon Marshall took to Twitter and, wasn't too happy with ESPN. He says, quote, "At E60 is running a piece on me tonight that they lied to me about. It was supposed to be a story on a camp. They followed me around 2 years ago and at the end put a camera in my face to talk about it and asked nothing about it, the camp or the community weekend. I'm disappointed. That at ESPN and at Lisa Salters continues to try and tell my story in ESPN's words. Better yet, I'm pissed off, beyond disappointed. This is the second time at ESPN did this. I trust ESPN to tell my story, and they lied to me once again to get my interview. Media exploits and tell their own stories. Disappoints again. Well, I guess I should probably start to use my coping skills now. Thanks, ESPN."
Oh, wow. Not surprised. These are the types of things I believe we would start seeing when mergers with ABC happen. You have a corporation, a company, an ESPN that was started in, a little, backroom studio that has grown to this billion-dollar conglomerate, worldwide leader in sports. And now they've branched off into other areas of entertainment with ABC. And you used to hear these stories. They would go on with entertainers, mainly musicians, where Mick Jagger, I don't care who it is, some big rock star would have cameras in his face for 3 months, right? And they're telling him, oh, we're going to do this piece on you, and it's for this, 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 and this. And then it airs, a year and a half later, and there's a statement in Rolling Stone, because this is not what they told me this was about. I think we're starting to see these tactics. It's for journalism. I believe it's how they get the real people to do what they really do and act how they want them to act. I'll be interested to see this piece. I can't wait to watch it now, because I don't know if ESPN's going to put him in a light.
I've got a feeling that it's going to focus on his struggles with mental illness and not the charity that he kind of agreed to, for lack of a better word, pimp through this. Now,
here's the other thing too. Does it air? Do they pull it?
No, they're not going to pull it.
All right, We'll see.
Okay, another fight a brewing, Bo. Get the sound effect ready. It's Rihanna v. CBS.
Ding, ding, ding.
Round one, fight. Now, Rihanna is pissed off at CBS because on the Thursday Night Football game between the Steelers and the Ravens, and this is, of course, in the middle of this Adrian Peterson story where they're talking about it all kinds pregame, they pulled a portion of Jay-Z's Run This Town featuring Rihanna that was supposed to be like an ongoing feature of Thursday night games. And Rihanna took to Twitter, and she was eloquent. She said, "CBS, you pulled my song last week. Now you want to slide it back in this Thursday? Y'all are sad for penalizing me for this. F you." And so the reason why they pulled it is unclear. Okay, there's kind of two stories here. The first narrative says that they didn't want to play it because Rihanna, as you know, is a victim of domestic violence. They didn't want to have the juxtaposition between half an hour of Adrian Peterson, Ray Rice talk, and then show a Rihanna song. Other people are saying, well, they just talked too long and they had to cut certain production elements before the game. But regardless, they've severed their relationship. CBS and Rihanna are no longer going to share an umbrella.
I'm sure all the geriatric community is just, relieved now. They don't have to worry about Rihanna messing up their CBS watching. But, you were just talking about the Redskins protest. We were talking about the referee. This is exactly why this country has so many issues, whether it's corporations, politicians, organizations, just seeing eye to eye. You can sit there in a room full of executives or whoever it is, PR people, and say, Rihanna was a victim of domestic violence. Is it a good idea to put her on TV, Sean? But when somebody looks you in the eye and says, do you think it's a good idea to be calling a football team Redskins? Y'all can't come to an agreement and figure it out. That's why we have to attack you. It's why you can't get mad at the people who are good at bashing the NFL when they mess up, because if they don't, they'll just keep blundering through life and we'll be stuck with these kinds of things. Rihanna tweeting out about her song being pulled when we really don't know if there are ulterior motives, but it's TV. And we don't even know if Goodell had the tape, which I think he had the tape. He says he didn't look at the tape. Whatever.
Yeah,
Move
that's
on.
a joke, man.
Let's talk football.
Yeah, let's talk some football. First of all, before we get to the things you should watch for in week 3, Bo and I have each selected a few games that we're going to talk about. Before we get to that, let's make fun of ESPN a little bit, shall we, Bo?
I love that.
We're talking power rankings and how ridiculous they are. Now, Bo,
oh gosh,
you've got the list in front of you. I know you were cracking up when you heard about this recent power ranking on Mike and Mike this morning. What stands out to you?
Yeah, I wanted to grab a handful of Johnsonville sausages that were left over from my party on Sunday and just shove them down Golick's throat when he was talking about the Eagles. The Eagles. They are an NFC East team. We warned you about the NFC East before the season started.
NFC
we warned you about
least.
Speculation. At best, one of the teams through that conference gets a bye because of their record or they win the division. Maybe they upset somebody, but I'm not betting my money on a Super Bowl victory coming out of there. A number 4 power ranking, Sean, ahead of the Patriots, ahead of the Niners, ahead of the Packers, ahead of the Chargers. The list goes on because they're number 4. I mean, this is where we get out of line. When it comes to power rankings, you can put the Broncos number 1. Nobody's going to argue that. We don't know the extent of how much Welker, with Welker being out, how much that's messing things up. Peyton Manning being the mad scientist that he is. Wes Welker could be like that one molecule that turns that from a drinkable petri dish to a petri dish that could wipe out a whole civilization of people.
Yep.
You don't know what he's up to in that head of his, because it is a big head.
And forehead.
And forehead, yes. Seahawks, one game does not determine if you're still the best team. There was mismatches. They exploited them.
Do you think that there's something to be said about the Seahawks' really lack of performance when they have away games? I mean, we know about the 12th man and their massive home field advantage. Are they a different team on the road, or is this, just a game?
Yeah, you can see evidence in this from high school to college to the pros. You remember the Cowbells, Mississippi State? They could just sit there and just ding, 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 ding the whole time that the opposing offense was out there.
Yep.
Or I think it was Ole Miss, used to put rocks in milk jugs and shake them.
That's a classy look.
Classy, So they took all this stuff, they pulled it away, and the home win percentages for those schools kind of dipped a little bit. I believe it to be truthful. But why isn't anybody else copying it? I can't understand why they will copy.
To be honest, the Seahawks copied the whole 12th man thing and the let's make some noise thing from a certain team from Kansas City that I tend to root for from time to time.
And don't you guys have a plan to make yours louder by bringing up? Are they going to do something?
Man, I hope not. That is the stupidest damn competition. We're the loudest. Who gives a shit? Watch the game.
Thank you. I go to football games. I don't care if it's my Lobos. The only time you'll catch me yelling is if my kids are out there playing or if one of my players doesn't do exactly what I've coached him to do. Other than that, I am watching the game. When the student sections are going, I love that because a bunch of kids that just got done reading Einstein's theory of evolution, or I can't even talk, relativity. What is it? What is this theory of?
Yeah, Einstein's theory of evolution. No, that's Darwin.
It's relative. What is it?
Relativity.
Relativity,
E equals MC squared.
Yeah, that's it. And then you got a bunch of other kids who are pretending to read that same book, which I was in that group, that are trying to let loose on the weekend and they just want to yell and jump in the student section. That's perfectly fine. But at an NFL stadium, when I have paid $98 to $180 a ticket to sit there, I cannot stand the guy who wants to stand up and just yell. It gets on my last nerve. But being a Cowboys fan, we suck at home and win on the road. So do you want that, Sean? That's the opposite. You could have what we have.
No, I just don't want a stupid decibel reader and
the Guinness book.
These morons just go into a game to scream their head off. That's not a real fan. That's a drunkard.
I haven't heard the term drunkard in a long
come on.
time.
You know, just because you're
classic.
Look, have you ever been to a bar? I mean, the obnoxious lady that's screaming her head off, she's got to go. That's not to be reinforced. That's not what the NFL should be about.
Make T-shirts about it.
We're the loudest. I hope that trend completely dies. So what to watch for week 3 of the NFL? I've got a few games circled, and Bo, you do as well.
Yeah.
I'll start off. I'm looking forward to this Washington-Philadelphia game. Cousins looked fantastic after RG3 got injured. I think that's probably the change that organization needs. Eagles, as we just discussed, might be a tad bit overrated. So it's going to be a good test. And I think the offense and the Redskins team is probably going to get behind Cousins. And hey, the spread is Eagles by 6.5. I don't know about that.
That's crazy.
You know,
it's crazy talk.
Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania, so I have a soft spot in my heart for the Eagles, but I don't know, man. Cousins might be the dark horse in that game.
Are you sure that's not a soft spot in your head?
I did not fall and drop my head, but I just got wisdom teeth out. You know, there's a difference, man.
But, you know, one thing that I've been saying for a long time, I was right about Matty Ice. I still think he's premier quarterback. When he came out of college, I used to watch Kirk Cousins on the Big Ten Network, and I would think, hey, this guy right here, he's going to play on Sunday. Great pocket presence. He can make those throws. And here's something for all of you naysayers out there that are so blinded by the RG3.
He's got nice hair, though.
In college.
Those braids
are
pretty
the braids
sharp.
Are cute.
They're
and
sharp.
The socks, you know, all that. It's cute.
Hey, braids are a better look than dreads. I'm just going to lay that out there.
I think that those are for girls, though. That's a debate that debate goes on. Because you'll get dads to where they're like, that's for the girls. Like African-American girls get those, and the boys, you get dreads or you get a fade. That's your only two options.
How dare you for reinforcing gender stereotypes, Bo?
Yes.
I thought you were better than that.
No, I'm not. I'm still a big meathead.
Okay, next
but
game.
Wait. Let me hit this up, though.
Okay.
Let me talk about this. Out of college, Cousins had a 64% completion percentage, and RG3 had a 67%. Cousins threw for 9,000, RG3 10,000 yards. Cousins threw for 66 touchdowns. RG3 threw for 78. Granted, RG3 ran a spread. It was fast-paced. Cousins ran a West Coast. It was traditional. It's what he's running in the NFL. The only difference between those two young men, and we're not even going to go there because I know people think I'm going to go there. The only difference between those two men
there's a couple.
is One runs a 4.4. That's the only difference.
You know what I thought was really classy of Cousins? Even though the fact that RG3 might be out this entire season, following that awesome performance in the press conference, he said, "This is Robert's team." You know,
Exactly.
I'm just that is so classy.
Oh,
you know?
I love that. Oh, I love that.
Classy
shit.
man, classy man.
Yeah.
Next game I'm looking at, Minnesota at New Orleans. That's another early game on Sunday. 2 reasons. One, if you would like to end up in the hospital based on alcohol poisoning, here's this for a drinking game. Shot every time you hear Adrian Peterson.
Oh, gosh.
Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? It's going to fuel the fire. There's going to be a ton of that talk. But also, Saints are 0-2. They're winless. They're also favored by 9.5 points. That to me, that screams of Vegas just trying to milk bettors, just trying to entice some money action.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. They're going home, right? It's going to be
At New Orleans.
Yeah, so you got to put your money on them.
9.5 points, though.
And you, of all people, should be getting on their bandwagon because I know I got a game coming up, Cowboys Saints, and there's $20 on that.
That money's.
So, I'm
already counting that money in my wallet.
The jury's still out on that Cowboys defense.
And the obvious game that everyone is going to watch. I don't need to tell you to watch this game. Denver at Seattle. Boy, I can't wait for this.
Yes.
I expect Seattle to win handily.
Why?
Because despite all the money that Denver threw at their team to get a little faster and stronger, I don't think they're as good.
I don't see that. I think they're struggling because Welker's gone. He's the missing piece. There's people that are doing having to take on roles that are outside of their norm, so they're not able to focus on what they need to be doing. It's just my theory, independent theory here. But the one thing that I saw in that Kansas City game that I like, wow, did that defense fly. That front four, it was just scary. And the only thing that stinks about Denver, I can't stand the Donkeys colors. If you guys would just get off the orange crush kick.
Okay, wait a second.
You would be so scary.
Okay, you just talked about how braids are for girls, and now you're discussing the wardrobe of these players, Bo.
I mean, it looks funny to see a bunch of big 300-pound D linemen fly around like they have the money, the greatest D line money could buy, And they're in orange. Like, have an alternate. Come out in all black with some matte black helmets with just orange face mask one time.
Oh, yeah. Peyton would look great in that.
Oh, yeah. Peyton would look hideous.
Okay, now, Bo, what 3 games were you looking at as pretty important?
Well, obviously, Denver and Seattle. You got that one down there. But for me, I get caught up on the divisions because when December rolls around, we're going to be talking about who is winning the division. That's what matters. Green Bay goes against Detroit. That game's going to have a lot of weight on it in December. You're going to look back on that game. Whoever lost it is going to be clawing back, and whoever won it is going to be in the driver's seat. Stafford still threw for almost 300 yards, had the crucial interception. Want to see how he bounces back. It's time for him to make elite steps. Yeah, you can throw for 300 yards, throw a touchdown, and get an interception and still be considered elite. Rodgers has done it. Manning has done it. They've all done it. But it's what you do the next week. And if Stafford cannot begin to correct his mistakes and get better, like you even see Tony Romo do to a degree, you will not be considered an elite quarterback. You won't be in that conversation.
Wait,
That's
I'm
a
sorry.
huge game
What
for
did,
me.
What did Tony Romo do?
Tony Romo is the classic, let me throw 4 straight picks this week, and then the next week I want to throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and I'll even shovel one to somebody. You're like, how does one guy make these decisions one week, and then the next week just go out there and play like a buffoon?
Spending that time in the bathroom with Jerry Jones and some questionable young ladies.
Yeah, that and the fact that he's had 2 back surgeries now, and it looks like he throws ducks when he tries to throw the ball over 30 yards. An interview, one of the guys caught him after the game and brought that up. If you watch the Cowboys game, it's alarming. I don't care if you're a fan or not. The guy that's getting paid that kind of money and was just invested in that's coming off his second back surgery, when he tries to unload, it's not there. It's gone. He looks like when I used to watch Marino at the end of his career when I was in Indianapolis. I'd go to those games.
And I got one bonus game of what to watch this weekend, Bo. It's a game that ordinarily you probably won't watch because it's going to be a colossal beatdown. The Colts at the Jaguars. Now, why? You're asking yourself, Sean, why? Why would I watch this game? Okay, just watch the first 10 minutes, if for no other reason than to see Luck's file photo that they used at the bottom of the screen. Dude looks like a damn serial killer. And apparently it's already neckbeard season because that thing's already sprouting up. So if
hey, and not to mention that, is that the one with the pool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched. Did you see the pool action the first week?
It's still warm outside.
Oh my goodness, that was something to watch. And hey, you cut me off. My last game, you're gonna like this one, was Kansas City, Miami. You know why?
Because you want to see me
straight
cry.
up. No, that is the straight up decider of the fifth team. That's the team that's going to be battling for that wild card slot. And if you lose this now, it's going to be when you'll have 8 or 9 wins instead of 9 or 10. And it's always that game at the beginning of the season you drop. You're going to get on a streak. Kansas City's going to win ball games. You just can't get too far in a hole. And this could put you in that hole.
Kansas City's going to be pulling people out of the stands to join the starters soon enough, man. They have had the worst injury luck I think I've ever seen. And
we talked about your schedule, though, and you can't forget, on one hand, everybody wants to say, oh, man, look at their schedule. Look at who they're playing. Those games are physical. Golly, that game against Tennessee was a physical game. This game against Denver was playoff hits going on out there. You survive it, you're going to get on a streak. I'm a Cowboys fan. I have experience in this, buddy. You can be 1-3 and still be in the playoff talks in December.
Or at least 8-8.
Yes.
Know a little something about that as a Cowboys fan, too. Well, that's going to do it for this episode number 20 of the Sean and Bo Show. As always, hit us up on Twitter. Email us, SeanandBoShow@gmail.com. And check us out on Podomatic, SeanandBoShow.podomatic.com. Until next week, I'm Sean O'Donnell, along with Bo Greer, reminding you, tip your pizza man.
See you next week.